I'm Robin Crane, and this is the Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way podcast. Listen, I was a financial advisor for over a decade, and I got so sick of the old archaic strategies that your grandpa used to get clients. What the industry teaches today is still so outdated and just doesn't work anymore. So I had to find a better way for myself, and then I got obsessed with sharing these how-tos with other women like me. The stuff I teach doesn't require giving up your life, your sanity, or your family time. I want women like you to have it easier than I had it, so you can thrive in the industry. I've now helped thousands of women grow their financial businesses to multiple six figures, some even seven figures per year. So on this podcast, you're going to get an inside look at how they did it so you can do it too. Let's dive into the show. I am here with Suzanne Powell, and this woman is incredible. Six kids. She basically works only 6 months out of the year and continues to grow her business. When I met Suzanne back in 2019, she was at about 40 million at the end of 2018. So when we met at the beginning of 2019, and now she has over 100 million in her book of business. Not to mention her whole practice in general has improved in so many ways around time, around growth, around quality of clients, even getting paid for financial plans. So we're going to get into quite a few things, but there's some things that Suzanne is just great at. One is really honoring her time and only working 6 months out of the year while still growing the business and having more of a surge approach, as apparently they've deemed it. Another thing is, like I said, you're charging fees, which you didn't before we started talking. So that's cool that you actually, are getting paid what you're worth there. You've done really well in the smart asset world for buying leads, cold leads, and being able to convert those into clients. And you mentioned one more thing. What was it? Remind me.
The smart asset leads, my
book. Oh, and you're a best-selling author.
Yeah.
Duh. And she's a best-selling author. She actually worked with my husband, Trevor, and has a book called The Ultimate, I said that funny, The Ultimate Money Moves for Women Over 50. And she's not even 50, well under 50. Ladies, and possibly the one gentleman, Suzanne Powell. Okay, so tell us, we had a lot of things there, but let's start with, I think lifestyle, because everybody wants to know, how the heck can you grow a business? You've 2.5 times your business in the last, 4 years. So how have you been able to do that while also taking time off? I know you have lots of kids. You're a busy mom, and especially during COVID time. I remember when we connected during that time, you were like, it's crazy here. There's going to be dogs, there's going to be kids, there's going to be interruptions, there's going to be all sorts of things, but I still make it work. So tell us how you're able to have that lifestyle business where you're only working 6 months out of the year.
That's a great question. So a couple of things that I implemented back when I was previously at my old firm, which was Chase and then Wells Fargo, was the surge meetings, which back then it wasn't necessarily called surge meetings. So, Chase had this thing where they wanted you to call all your clients for reviews on their birthday month. And what was happening organically is a lot of my clients, November, December, January, would cancel, reschedule, weather, they didn't want to get out, busy, holidays, whatever. So they were pushing into February, March, interrupting the rest of my meetings. And the same thing was happening over the summer, where I couldn't get a lot of my normal clients in. And so I actually approached my manager at that time and said, listen, this anniversary birthday review isn't really working, because they just want you to see people consistently, have a reason to be in the office. And so I said, no, I'm not going to go this way. I'm going to do something different. And I implemented what is now a very popular term called surge meetings 11 years ago. And so really I send an email out now, have a Calendly link. Basically my email went out September 1 that just said, hey, it's time for your review. And so September, October, and we sort of push into November. The goal is to be done that week of Thanksgiving with all my client reviews, and they get a whole hour and I follow an agenda. It's a pretty, regimented process. And then I start back over March 1 with the same email that says, hey, it's time for your spring review.
Or the same people get 2 reviews a year?
I meet with them twice a year, minimum. Sometimes I meet with some people quarterly if they are new or just kind of need more. So the goal there is March, April, and be done by Memorial Day, which is end of May. That works really well because it's tax time in March, April, and everyone wants to kind of meet with me anyway. And then at the end of the year, a lot of times people need money for their property taxes, holiday shopping, whatever. So I have found that it's more efficient. They're scheduling, they're coming in, they're not canceling. And then essentially the other period of time, which is June, July, August, and then November, December, January, and part of February, I'll see people, if they're prospects, of course, and then if there's, a death, a birth, a move,
The bar mitzvah.
yeah, general maintenance type issues, some divorce, that happens
Right.
all year round.
So it's not like you're taking off those months. It's just really quiet.
I'm never in the office much those months. I don't think I stepped
Yeah.
one day
Okay.
in summer. So I have assistants, of course. And so a majority of these things, a beneficiary changes because of the divorce, address changes, needing money, all of those things really get pinged onto my assistants to where it's not an in-person meeting, but they text me, they call me, they email me saying, I got to do something. And then I forward it on. So normally they're not converting to like urgent in-person meetings. Connie's taking care of everything. So no, I'm really honestly usually not here. In fact, I started coming in last week for my meetings after Labor Day, and everyone was like, "Whoa, hey, how's it going?" like they hadn't seen me in a while, so.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So you said, well, let me back up. So when you're meeting and doing portfolio reviews, are you typically getting more business or referrals from those reviews? Like, is that actually money-making time? Because you're saying, well, I'm really only working mostly 6 months out of the year, but I know you're growing your business. I know you're still getting more ideal clients. I know, things are happening in the business. And you said to me before we started recording, we were talking about other podcasts. You're like, I don't really need help in marketing. I don't really need help in sales anymore. Like, you kind of got that hammered out and like nailed. But during those times when you're meeting with clients' portfolio reviews, is that money-making times, or is that happening during other parts of the year?
Yeah, both. So obviously I also only prospect 6 months out of the year. So my smart asset leads that I've been doing since October of 18, I turn on and I turn off the same way that I see
Is that the
clients.
same timeline when you're doing portfolio reviews?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
I
you're
just
doing
work that
marketing during those
into,
same times. So really, whether you're meeting with clients and doing client reviews, or whether you're doing smart asset lead marketing or whatever other marketing you're doing, those 6 months are the core, where your core time when you're putting your foot on the gas. You're not just fulfilling on the business, you're also growing the business.
correct.
And then
And
the other times are like sparse, like you're working from home, but like, let's just say it's July or it's December. I mean, if there's an urgent request or something, it's not like you're not going to answer your phone, but are you, because I don't have an office. I have an office. It's at my home. It's been at my home for over a decade. So I go to the office every single day. Excuse me. Unless I'm, not working, I wouldn't go into the office. And if I was on vacation or something, I'm really bad at like responding to things when I'm on vacation. Like I really tune out. Like I'm really not good at, I'm, working from beach. I can work from home, but cannot work from beach. So are you just kind of like you go into the office still at 9 or 10 o'clock and you kind of do things, or are you mostly just like, I'm doing things with my family, and then if something comes up, then I respond to it, or, I'll get back to them within 24 hours, as financial advisors like to say. How does that look on the off months?
So on my website, which is SuzannePowell.com, it says, the financial advisor that answers your call. So what that means to me is when a client texts me and they hadn't called Connie first, but they actually contact me and say, hey, I need money, or da 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 da, blah, 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 I immediately reply. So even though I'm technically not in the office in a client facing meeting the 6 months out of that year, I am getting an occasional text message or email or outreach from somebody needing something. Now, Connie's been with me almost 10 years. A lot of my clients have learned that they can call her first and they can email her. And they actually sort of purposely protect my time and say, hey, I didn't want to bother you with this. So I just called Connie. But then they'll tell me that. And I'll go, oh, great, cool. Hope you're having a great day. So there's a lot of messaging that goes back and forth in emails. If there's even, an urgent thing. But urgent when clients are meeting with me regularly and I'm already checking on them and I already say, hey, like in my reviews yesterday, I have 7 meetings in a row, it's an onslaught when I'm in surge mode.
Yeah.
And my first thing is, how is your money? What's in your checking account? What's coming up between now and March when I see you? Do I need to push some money out? Should I place some trades today? How's your cash flow going? So I actually already
Very
manage
proactive.
some of those things. I check their beneficiaries while I'm here and go, hey, by the way, we still have your blah as such and such is contingent. Does this still work for you? So I'm trying my best to mitigate the need for an urgent, thing. But, water heaters break, air conditioners break. But I also want to make sure that they've got enough cash in their account to where they're not coming to me like they're down to their last $800.
Right.
Most of my clients are usually keeping, 10, 20, 30 grand in the bank to where they usually aren't having to come to me for stuff. But I do get back to them
basically,
right away.
are you going into your home office, or are you getting on your computer on those off months most of the time? Or it's just fully like just whenever people call you, you do whatever. And then, so you're not working on marketing. You're not working on any prospecting, any nothing. Whoa.
No,
so
unless I get a client referral. So my clients are happy with me and I can't dictate to them when they send me somebody. And so they're, of course, organically every other week or so, I'm getting a text or a joint email or somebody saying, hey, Mary Ann's looking for services. She needs X. And then I'll plug in. So,
but other than that,
yes.
and then you get in there, but other than that, there's nothing for you to do. You're just I got my surge months. I got it's basically 3 months here, 3 months there. And then you basically have 6 months off and you have over 110 million in your book of business, which I would imagine is somewhere along the lines of a 7-figure revenue stream here and working 6 months out of the year. I mean, that's pretty sweet.
My poster board that was my goals this year was to make 2 million. It's likely I'm going to make 1 million. Eventually I want to get to 2 million. And every year I'm usually adding, 10 to 20 million. And yes, to go back to your thing about clients, I ask about outside assets still. I'm still checking on what they have in the savings. I'm making sure that the yield they're getting right now is good on that money, whether they're at Cap One or with me or some money market fund. I don't care. We talk about IULs. We talk about life insurance if we have to. We'll talk about their annuities if they own them.
Yeah.
So there's always some new money coming in. There's some money that can organically go out the door to the next vacation that they were planning for. But I do use that hour meeting with them to talk about the ancillary products and things that they may need my help with, because the reality is if I'm not asking about it, they're getting an email, a letter, a postcard, and then they're going to someone else to get that information. And so I do still remind them that these things I can do. And so do you need me for them? Have you thought about doing any of this? Just want to make sure, because I don't like it when I get told, hey, I bought this $50,000 annuity with some money you didn't know about. Because this guy, paid for our Ruth Chris dinner and I felt like I had to. That's never a great feeling for me.
Reciprocity does work.
So I do try to manage specifically annuity and insurance stuff, because I don't lead with that. I'm not commissioned. I'm a fiduciary. I don't lead with annuity sales. It's not a primary thing that I do. I really do it just as needed, with a client. And so I do really bring that up and go, hey, have you thought about it? Have you heard about them? A lot of guys in this city are heavily marketing at this really cool castle and doing dinners. And some of my clients do feel compelled to show up. So I just always like to kind of nip it in the bud and go, if you go to one of those things and you think you want to buy something like that, you come talk to me first.
Yeah, that's cool.
Please.
So I want to go into the smart asset stuff, but real quick. So you said that you get about 10 to 20 million additional assets under management per year. Is that mostly new clients or mostly from your book?
All new. Well, I mean, I'm sure
But
18 new and
okay,
two book,
right. So mostly new. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about smart asset. So I know when we started in 2019, like you were doing smart asset and you were already like before we started working together, like pretty good at it. Like you were getting smart asset leads and you were converting them. And then a lot of other people, who were paying for smart asset leads that I would hear from like weren't converting them, and people complain about, oh, these leads are horrible and it doesn't really work. And this is not to promote smart asset. I think it's just like the concept of buying cold leads. And any lead, any place you're buying leads from, obviously you need to have a good source, but if you're purchasing leads, even if they say these are, I don't know if they say they're proprietary, or they say they're just going to one advisor, you only. If someone's going on the internet and they're filling something out because they're curious about insurance, or they're worried about their money or something, they might be filling out multiple things. So it's not that necessarily they're saying we're not selling the leads to more than one person or giving the leads to more than one person, but we are. It's just that some people are looking multiple times. So there's usually competition in that area. So how have you been able to, one, even convert those leads, but then two, really optimize how you convert them? Like I know that was something we really talked about, of like the cadence of following up and how you do that, and then automating it. I know then you hired someone to help you like automate that. So talk a little bit about that, so people who are buying leads, because can actually utilize that strategy that is very effective if they do it right. Like what are some of the key components that have to be done properly so that they can convert those client or prospects into clients?
So my conversion rate's always been higher than Smart Asset's average. They made that very apparent to me within 6 months of me being there. The first month I did Smart Asset, I was closing business, and maybe it was October is a good month and the leads that were coming through were real. I don't know a lot about that. What I do find is there's some ebb and flow specifically with Smart Asset. There's a month where I swear all 25 people must be made up. And I get super frustrated, and I'm talking to my account manager going, who are these people? Because the phone numbers aren't working. The emails come back. Like, I don't believe that these were even real. And then there's months where everybody's texting me back and everyone's replying and everyone really needs help. And so I was thankfully paying for Smart Asset so quickly that I really never gave up. I just happened to get some really good leads, I think those first 4 to 6 weeks, where it paid for itself. And so because it had already paid for itself, I said, I'm just going to keep going. And I math it out all the time, because my lead flow is anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 a month. That's my budget. And I math it out to make sure it's still paying for itself, because they have increased their cost over time. And it's paid for itself to the point where I would never even have to get another lead for like 20 years and it would still have paid for itself. Awesome. So I never get discouraged, because it just happens that some weeks they're junk and some weeks they're good. And sometimes it's just one guy and he's great. And he has, like, for instance, seriously, this happened to me back in March. He had $33 million. And I just was like, wait, stop, what? But he didn't end up becoming a client. I met with him. He didn't end up becoming a client. He has a ridiculous amount of money in a 3 times bull NASDAQ ETF, TECL, that he had like zero basis on. None of it's in IRAs. And I just looked at him. I said, Mike, holy moly, we need to talk trust. We need to talk planning. But like, there's nothing I can do. I literally can't sell this one ticker that you have $18 million in. You only paid like 12 grand for, like, anyway. Shocked. I was super shocked.
So you're saying he basically had a super low cost basis for something and made a shit ton of money on it, where it was like there's so little to do because him cashing out is just going to kill him tax wise. And so it wasn't that he was a jerk or didn't want your help. It was that literally there was not much anyone could do to improve his situation because it was so damn good.
Yeah. And to be honest, with the way he has some stuff structured early on, like he put like this mill in an LLC and now it's worth 13. And he put this mill in an LLC and now it's worth 13 for one daughter or the other daughter, and they both own it. You can't even hide the money from estate taxes at that point, like the way he's already structured stuff. Anyway, it was a great hour of my time where I learned a lot from him, and just wow, I've never met a guy who basically had no money and turned it into 33 million. But I didn't end up closing them. Whatever, no big deal. A lot of them I do, and it was interesting for me. It's the most money I've ever met through a smart asset lead, but legitimately he was a smart asset lead, and I was just I was floored. So I set up an automation within that first year because I am mostly in client meetings. When I'm getting a lead, I don't necessarily have time to drop the phone and pick it up. I can't be two places at once. So I set up a lead flow, like a lead flow and automation through Slack and basically Ring Central, where it pulls the information and there's a sequence of text messages and emails that go out immediately that says, "Hey, got your lead. Got your information. My name's Suzanne. We were a match. When do you have time to talk?" I don't touch a lead and haven't touched a lead on my own in like 3 years unless I know from my Ring Central that my text messages aren't going through. If I can tell they're not going through, meaning it's a landline, then I do have to actually pick up the phone. I used to drop a voicemail until they outlawed that. And so on occasion, usually about 1 every 4 leads, I do actually have to pick up the phone, dial the number, and try to reach them. And most of the time it goes to some
dialing is like so time consuming. It's dude.
And a lot of people, even on their cell phones now, they're all going straight to voicemails because they have like that block feature.
Right. Do not disturb or do not call type of thing. Yeah.
Right. So if I'm getting a text back or an email back, which so far this week I've gotten 2 emails back from my emails, then I have to start the dialogue. My automation turns off at that point. And I'm always in every email and every text driving them to my calendar link to schedule a 15-minute call. On that 15-minute call, I just say, "Hey, John, nice to meet you. Got some information. How can I help?" And I just stop talking. I learned that from you. Like, how can I help? Period.
Funny thing you learned from me to stop talking when I talk a lot, but it's true. In the sales process, you have to shut up. It's hard to do, but it works. Okay, cool. So, I mean, I think that all there are huge golden nuggets right there already. Is that, first of all, I'm gonna recap some of the things, unpack it a little bit. Is that number one, consistency is everything. So it's very easy for any new marketing to give up early, and most people do that. Whether it's seminars, whether it's Facebook ads. I know most advisors don't do Facebook ads, but some have tried. Whether it's LinkedIn marketing, whether it's smart asset leads, any of these things, it doesn't, like, you could get lucky. It sounds like you did, where Suzanne, you were able to, in the first month, recoup your money really quickly, which is probably unusual. And that way you got really lucky because that gave you the confidence to continue. But if you could borrow the confidence from Suzanne and just say, okay, well, just because I didn't make money the first month or the second month or the third month, doesn't mean I'm not going to make money. Like, I would give it a good 6 months, but you also have to know that you're good at conversion. See, I think this is the problem too with advisors, is that many advisors think they're good at converting because they're really good at closing referrals, but referrals are already pretty much closed. Like, they're referred to you. You got some, third party saying you are awesome. And then they come to you and they're already ready to buy, and you just pitch your, crappy fact finder thing. And then you get the client. But when a lot of advisors are like, well, now I want to be more intentional with my marketing, and actually I'm willing to pay for it. I'm going to double down here. So now you pay for marketing, but you don't really know how to cold close leads. Then you might fall flat on your face even after 6 months. So you got to make sure you have a process to convert. You got to make sure, I know for smart asset, you can choose like the asset level, but there's no real target marketing, right? It's not like you can say, I want this type of target, right? It's just, it's just based on what they think that they have money wise, right? Assets wise.
Correct. And I only do the top 2 tiers, and I use the FCC system. Like, I literally print it off still with every prospect meeting.
That's my system, by the way.
That is, period. Because if you recall, the reason why I even plugged in you, even though I had been stalking you for a whole year, was I had 3 really good leads right in a row. All of them happened to be engineers, which was my background when I was in college, and none of them convert. But engineers are notorious DIYers. They don't like paying fees. And so what you told me on the phone that day was you were going to stop doing your planning for free, because that's what you do at Wells Fargo and JP Morgan to gather assets, because you can't charge. You're like, you were going to create plans for a fee, because they were never going to close, Susie. They were never going to move their money. They were just trying to get what they could for free out of you. And you're going to start offering a packaging service to these people as a way to at least monetize your time. And that was life-changing to me. Like, I still to this day do a plan every other month or so that there was no asset to move. Like, I have this really big lady, she's like a C-suite at Ashland, and millions of dollars in her 401k. She's only 50. Like, there's no other outside asset. There was nothing else for me to do for her. And then when she paid me $5,500 for my plan, she was just so legitimately grateful, because nobody in this town really does the kind of planning and offers the packages that I offer. And anyway, so the conversions helped with the FCC, because I was starting to turn into, in those prospect meetings, a little bit of too much of a listener, and maybe even like verging on family therapist. And I think I was losing some credibility. So the FCC really helped, because I keep creating the pain, sticking to the point, which is money, the money, the money. But then also having packaging, offering a second way to work with me was really imperative, because there is some times where people want to plan and they just don't have any AUM to move. It got so great. My smart asset is so amazing, and I was crushing the lead flow so much. After I went to the last FEM event in Tampa, and some of my clients are moving down to Florida just for retirement. You know, they want to move down there. So they were in the Villages, they're Naples, Leesburg, Clearwater, Sarasota, mostly Gulf side, I've noticed. I actually opened an office there by early 2020, and subsequently moved to a bigger office, a super fancy bougie office now, that I've been there for like 3 years. So I actually do something really interesting with Smart Asset. When I know I'm not going to be in Florida, I take Lexington leads, and then I'll email my manager about 2 weeks from when I'm headed to Florida. And I'll turn off my Lexington leads, and I'll turn on my Villages leads. And I don't go there during hurricane season, of course. So I don't start going until October. And when I'm in the Villages, though, I only meet with them on Saturdays and possibly Sunday mornings. So there is a period of time, specifically about 4 weeks in October, where if I happen to be going to the Villages, which is like every other week, I am essentially almost in the office 7 days straight those weeks. So I'm Monday through Friday here.
Right.
Doing
you're in your surge. But I think that's a lifestyle choice. Like you said, it's like you're willing to work more during those times but then you get 6 months off, which most people don't. So let me go back a couple things, and then I want to just talk about your book real briefly before we say goodbye. So one, I was saying consistency. So you got to just like commit to the marketing. 2, you got to have a process. That's what you were talking about. I have something called the FCC sales system. So you're using FCC, or you have a process to get to really uncover what their challenges are and what they want. And we have a whole system to that. So if you don't, otherwise you could be just blowing marketing dollars, because if you don't have that and you can't convert cold leads, then you're definitely it doesn't matter how consistent or persistent you are, it might not work. And then the third thing, well, you might have said second, was that, now I just forgot it. I had it in my head. What was the other thing you said? This is my brain fart. About automation. Sorry. So automation. So you basically set up a system that's automated, and most advisors never do that. Like, most advisors are still like in old school, old archaic models of, like follow up, where even for portfolio reviews, they don't even have a Calendly link. They're just like calling or having their team call or email to try to book these appointments. And it's a lot of chasing, even clients, let alone prospects. And so if prospects, they take multiple touches for you to get them to the table to have a conversation. Then you set up the automation, and you're also using something really innovative called text messaging, SMS, baby. Like, it's not that innovative, but it's like, it's again, the industry's in the dark ages. Some companies don't even allow text messages. So you might be listening right now and thinking, well, that's great, Suzanne, you're allowed to do that. I'm not. But there are things you could figure out. And I always say, you have legs, you can always walk. There are independent firms out there, but you got to have systems in place for your marketing so that you can free up your time. Because if you're doing all that manually, like it's virtually impossible, because you need enough touches and you need enough follow up, and you can't just keep picking up the phone. And it's also, you need multiple different, like multiple platforms, right? So there's SMS, there's email, there's phone call, like there's 3 right there, right? And then you have options on your website as well. So that's awesome. So let's talk real briefly about your book. Just tell them, like, I guess, why you decided to do a book, why was it so important, and then how it's impacted your business.
I don't know that I knew that I wanted to do a book until Trevor came to that femme and said, "You want to do a book." It's a great piece of collateral to create credibility. Of course, interviewing the women really at the beginning to try to get enough content and understand why I should even write the book. That was imperative to me. Ultimately, though, I think what I was trying to do was write the type of book that none of my clients would have ever organically read. Because let's be honest, women in general don't traditionally, especially in this 60 to 70-year-old client range, love money books. I was like, okay, let's pretend for a second that they're never going to want to read this book. It's going to sit on their desk and they're just going to like go, Not only do I not really even like to read, but if I do read, I like fiction, romance novels and the more traditional stuff. So I actually wrote the book on purpose, even like made the character font bigger for women who may need bifocals so that they could actually read it.
Without the bifocals?
I wrote it with them in mind, knowing that this was going to be a painful book for them to read if they even got through it. And so it was pretty, I want to say it was really basic, but the way I explain things is pretty basic. I didn't talk alpha, beta, standard deviation, and all these big jargony words like, men love to talk about. It was dreaming big. It was cash flowing. It's side hustles. It's how to have your side hustle help you avoid taxes. It's even if you go into retirement not really knowing what you want to do, let's try to map out what you want to do. And summer versus winter. Some of these clients are Florida, so they're all season pickleballers, but not everybody is in Florida. Some people are still in Lexington, where there is a traditional winter, and they get a little, like seasonal depression. So anyways, it's a really good book, but at the end of every chapter, I even summarize the chapter. And at the end of the book, I even summarize the book. And I actually point that out to my people as I'm giving the book away or selling the books that, hey, look, like seriously, even if you don't even read it, can you just thumb to the back? Like you're going to get something out of it. Even the summary Cliff Notes version. But so far, the feedback on the book is, wow. It was way better than I was expecting. It was actually good. And I was like, yeah. And I mean, still to this day, I sell 3 to 5 copies a day on Amazon.
Really?
Ebooks and physical books. Yeah. It sells every day, which I love.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. And to be honest with you,
that probably has a lot to do with the title.
Yeah. I haven't even really, so ideally, if I had more time and I was trying to not hog my summer, I would have put in a newspaper article in the Villages, because the Villages is really cute golf cart community in Florida where they still have a traditional paper that everybody reads. It's really awesome. And I would have took a page out, and I can still do this. Like I could do this tomorrow if I wanted to. And I could give my book away and basically sign it to do a lead, basically treat it like a lead magnet, which is my intention. My intention is still to do this, because this book is not stale. It's a bit evergreen. I didn't put anything that was too time sensitive, like COVID topics or anything in it. So there's so much I can still do with my book that I haven't even done because my asset leads convert and I close like crazy. It's like I don't even have to do that yet. But my goal, if I really did want to just bring on more women clients, which I love working with, it's like my avatar, I could do that. I keep thinking I'm gonna, and then months just get away from me and I don't. So anyway, one thing I want to say about Smart Asset Lead and my automation, one last thing was I actually just closed a $1.5 million guy out of state who was a smart asset lead from 3 years ago, because I still have my automation drips even a year out. And I also send a Tuesday talk email that I put all those smart asset leads into, and they get that Tuesday talk unless they unsubscribe. So I was dripping on him, not really knowing that. And eventually he said, "Hey, I'm retiring. I'm ready." And I was like, "Oh my God, where'd you come from?" He said, "I think I was a smart asset lead like 3 years ago." And I went and looked, and I was like, "Oh my God, yeah, you were."
Wow, that's
So,
crazy.
I mean, it pays for itself.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like you said, you were stalking me for a year before you started working with me. I mean, people are paying attention if you keep putting content out there. And this is another thing financial advisors are really bad at, is like continuing to drip on people. It's like all that most advisors do is they go to networking events and then 3 years later get a client going, "Oh, good thing I was at those networking events for 3 years." But like you could do all that automated without taking any of your time, like using your content, not just market content, but like what's going on in your life. And that's a whole other piece. But I think that's, most people, the majority of people actually don't convert. It's only 3% of the market that's actually ready looking for a financial advisor. So it's like most people aren't ready to convert. Then you put good messaging out there, you'll get the 7% open to it, maybe the 30% not thinking about it, maybe the 30% who don't think they're interested, and then the 30% know they're not interested, you might not get. But like we talk about that, and that was really fast. But like we talk about that, and that's what dripping does, is like you continually market to people automatically in the masses, so that you can continue to put your brand out there, and eventually, like when they're ready, they'll come back. So one last thing about the book. So even though you haven't really done a lot to, let's say, be intentionally marketing it, obviously you did the pre-launch marketing with Trevor, of course, but now that you have it, you're getting people to buy it? Are you finding that you're getting people to convert to clients just by being an author, by having the credibility? Like, have you noticed that it's easier to convert clients now that you have a book, or there's something like, whether they buy it or not, you having the book, has that helped you grow your business?
It has. I get a Zoom meeting usually once every other week from some random woman. And inevitably, because she's using a very specific Calendly link, I know that she came from the book. And they're like, not in this state. One girl was in New York, one girl was in Texas. I had someone in Washington, and it was from the book. So it's converting, it's paid for itself at this point. I know for sure. But I really like it more for what potential it even still has that I haven't even used it yet.
Yeah, you could keep using it. One of my friends, JJ Virgin, was saying that, don't even do a book unless you have a 3-year marketing plan. It's just like 3 years of marketing, and that could be pre-launch, the actual launch, post-launch. Like you just continue, like you keep repurposing and repurposing and repurposing and repurposing. She's writing a new book called Protein First, and she's a New York Times bestseller, so she's got like a ton of credibility. But like she's not launching it yet because there's all this preparation just around the marketing side. There's so much you can do with the book, which obviously, as you know, Trevor Crane, my husband, does that. So, but this has been great. Thank you so much. There's a ton of insight. We can go on forever, but I think we both have appointments. So we're going to say goodbye. Any last things to offer on your goodbye here?
I think just, help people how you can. And I always hate to say this, but create a little gap, like people sometimes think they want you, and then you just have to convince them that you're the one they want.
You're the one, baby. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on this special Femme series episodes. Bye-bye.